All right, I'm ready. You ready?
Cool, yeah.
All right, let's talk election.
Go for it.
What, I mean, do you have any thoughts on the election? Do you care?
I do care.
You're aware there's one happening?
There is one happening.
Yeah.
I'm very well aware. So like my past on election politics, I used to love going to vote, but it was just to do it, right?
Sure.
It's our right.
Yeah.
I think everybody should vote.
Yeah.
Back in college, it was interesting. It was during the election, so our English teacher was an elective I had to take. She said, well, I only get to do this once every 4 years, so we're going to go and break down the entire platforms for both sides so that you guys make a full educated decision.
That's crazy.
Which was kind of cool.
Break down the platforms and make an educated decision.
Right?
Whew.
In college, too.
Things were crazy back then.
Yeah. Long ways ago.
Was that like 3 years ago?
Yeah. 5 years ago now. Oh, my God. But so now I tend to do that, even like locally, because I think on a local side and state side, it affects us a little bit more.
Well, arguably, it's way more impactful locally.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
and that's the one we pay the least attention to.
Right?
Yeah.
So that could be a whole other conversation
Sure,
because, local and
that's-
state, I mean, that's what you really should be diving into and truly caring about who's in charge.
I would agree.
But on the larger scale, the primaries, I mean, it's been a roller coaster. And I think media and like you were saying, you kind of get everybody on that anxiety level now.
Yeah, it's up. It's time. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
It's the silly season, as they say. I was telling you and Vin that it's my 8th election cycle in this business, 32 years. 8 times 4 is 32, right?
You'd never know.
Yeah. It feels like my 100th, but it's already starting in the office, and my clients, by and large, are pretty thoughtful people.
Yeah.
You don't become financially successful for the most part. Lottery winnings and rich uncles dying aside, you typically don't become financially successful without being somewhat thoughtful. But there's a big but here. Is when elections occur, folks get a little worked up, and I don't know if it's worse or who knows if it's worse or better than it used to be. Social media certainly doesn't help.
Yeah.
I think back to when I was a kid, and maybe when you're a kid, you're just not aware. You're like, I don't know what these crazy old people are talking about.
Yeah.
I just want to go play kickball. But I still kind of feel that way, actually. But it does ramp people up, and some people get pretty bent out of shape and worried, and typically the calls start coming in from some of the worriers, and should I go to cash? What should I do differently? The world's going to end, and most of that is centered around their person not being in the lead.
So does the fear and that anxiety, is that coming more from on a stock kind of side? Is it more of a retirement? Do they feel like the whole economy is going to crash if their person doesn't win?
I don't know that they're sure. Some element of all those things where they think, well, what if tax policy changes? That'll be bad.
They feel like they're going to lose funds.
They're going to, and the reality is tax policies waxed and waned one way or the other for 100 plus years. And sometimes it's a point or two this way or a point or two that way. For most retirees, it's not that big of an effect on there. In fact, I can tell you I've been sending income checks to people for 32 years.
Yeah.
It pretty much doesn't affect what they get for the most part. But people worry about tax implications and what does that mean to the economy and so on. And these are fair questions.
Of course.
But at the end of the day, I argued in an article I wrote before the last election, is that economies, and I know some of my clients will take issue with this, and that's okay, I'll fight with them later, but the economies typically happen to presidents, not because of presidents. So things, we're on a big aircraft carrier here. It's hard to turn that sucker around like the day you hit the office, right? All right, on January, whatever inaugural day, everything's going to be much different. It's
never going to happen.
It's not going to happen. We have gridlock. We have, sometimes the Senate is this party, and the House is that party, and the White House is this party, and gridlock is a thing, right? I have a friend who says he votes for He writes in gridlock every year for every time he votes. He's like, I vote for gridlock because they're all idiots. But I do think people get unnecessarily worked up. And again, presidents have some effect, but I would argue it's minimal over, especially while they're in office. Sometimes that effect lags, and occurs later, a few years after they leave office, especially a one-term president. But it doesn't worry me. I don't worry about presidents at all. It doesn't change my life. I tell people all the time, ask me about why don't you, who do you vote for, and who do you like, and I kind of sheepishly try to wiggle out from under it.
Yeah, of course.
Because it really doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
I've decided long ago that whoever's in the White House has no effect on my life. I am going to do what I do. Tell me the rules of the game and I'll play it.
Which, I agree with that. I think a lot of people get so caught up, especially, everybody believes what they read now, especially with the media, and they don't think about what it takes for, if a president wants to do, like, even when I go back to, like, the platforms that everybody, this is what I'm going to do when I'm in office.
Yeah.
Let's go back now and see how much of that has actually gotten done, which is very minimal, if anything. So
True.
When somebody says, oh, I'm worried about the economy going this way because this person's in office, it's like, take a step back. It's not going to have any effect.
Before I came out here today, I as often is the case before elections, investment companies put out a ton of literature on past presidential elections and what occurred and what the returns are. And I started to gather all that stuff up. And the reality is what we all know, that Democrat or Republican, heaven forbid an independent get elected, a Democrat or a Republican is almost a dead heat in terms of return, not only over their term, but in the election year. So election years are generally positive if you look at the statistics, regardless of who's running or who's winning, right? So, the economy or the stock market, if we're talking about the stock market in particular, really doesn't care that much. It may go this way. I'll be perfectly honest. I thought when Trump got elected, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump doesn't matter. I think you'd agree what I'm going to say. He's erratic, right? So we don't know what he's going to say. We don't know what he's going to do. And some people like that and some people don't. I don't really care. But I thought, well, the market probably is going to react poorly to that because the market likes certainty. And so at night of the election, like everybody, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I was like, holy crap, Trump's president. And then the market was, and I thought, oh, that's not good. And it dropped 700-800 points in futures. But by the time the market opened, it was already pretty close to flat. Yeah. So it had its conniption fit, and it was good. And a lot of people think when what we would, I guess people would call a liberal Democrat gets elected, that's the end of the world. The reality is some of the best runs we've had for 4 years have been under quote-unquote liberal Democrats. So again, again, tell me the rules, show me the game, and let's play. Yeah. Presidents have next to no impact on those things.
No, I agree. Actually, I was curious when you were saying you're getting a lot of calls. Do you feel like these calls have been different because maybe people are more worried about health now and like kind of this pending crisis now, that they were kind of different questions or a different?
That's a fair observation. I think that with COVID and us all being locked up and staring at our gadgets, these things, and tuning into our team. Everybody's got a team, the blue team or the red team. It's like college football somehow all of a sudden. And if their team isn't doing well, then that makes them upset. But yeah, COVID probably plays a role because people are just cooped up with nothing else to do. But at the end of the day, they say we get the presidents we deserve. So there you go.
I like that.
Yeah. We're not innocent here, right? Yeah. You pointing at your Facebook page and screaming, typing in capitals.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. I like that. Well, feel good about getting that off your chest now.
I want to get out in front of that because it's going to occur. My clients are going to see this, and some of them are not going to care and call me anyway and yell at me for saying whatever it is I just said, and that's totally cool. It's part of the interaction. It's a big part of what we do is playing psychologist or therapist or, Scott, is the world going to end, and me saying no. For the 100th time to that, to those people.
You probably do a lot of that.
I do, and that's totally fine. It's why we get paid, and it's what I signed up for. But hopefully by talking about this and realizing there's things you can control and things you can't control. And you talked about local elections. I think it's hilarious that we put so much energy into national elections, which are so disconnected We don't think maybe governors a little bit, mayors a little bit less,
Yeah.
and judges and council people. I mean, that's really where you should care. That affects you literally at the street
100%.
level. And so those things, I think, certainly we should pay more attention to than we do, and I'm guilty of it as well. But the national elections and the noise about who's going to win and who isn't going to win, and is the world going to end if your guy doesn't win, in this case, they're both guys, I think is silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. It's a good message. Hopefully, your clients and other people see it and just relax
Deep breath,
a little
people.
bit, right?
Namaste, right?
That's it. Woosah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what that means, but it makes sense. So, anyway. So, thanks for asking. Now I feel a lot better. I can get on with my weekend. Got that off my chest. So, I think we're good.
Sweet.
Thanks, Ben.